Um, I am very happy to see such a large crowd. I guess they didn't come to see me. But nonetheless, I'm glad you're here. I would, to get going, I would just ask for a motion to approve the minutes from our August 7th meeting.
I make a motion to approve. Wes. Second.
Any discussion on those? Everything okay?
Yep.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
And now we'll go to the main event. Rachel Friedman from Peconic Estuary Partnership is here to review IA systems, the benefits and whatnot, and have at it.
Well, hi, everybody. First off, thank you for having me here, and thank you guys for joining us. My name is Rachel Friedman, and I am the Water Quality Outreach Specialist for the Peconic Estuary Partnership. And today I'm here just to walk you guys through the why and the how of upgrading your outdated septic system to an innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment system, which we'll be referring to as IA and OWTS, and how you can utilize state, county, and town grants to get financial assistance upgrading your outdated technologies to the cleaner and more responsible IA OWTS technologies. These systems are the future of wastewater management and homeownership on Long Island, and upgrading is one of the most impactful actions you can take to protect our environment, our water quality, your health, and your community and your home. People are always asking me what they could do personally to make a difference, and I'm excited to tell you that as a homeowner, you have a real powerful opportunity to make an actual difference to help shape Long Island's future. Next slide. Just to start us off, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about who the Peconic Estuary Partnership is. We are one of 28 national estuaries of significance designated by the EPA under Section 320 of the Clean Water Act. Another estuary on Long Island that is a part of the National Estuary Program is the Long Island Sound Partnership. And at the Peconic Estuary, we have the amazing privilege to be able to focus our work on protecting and restoring Peconic Bays and the surrounding watershed. We are the connection between science, policy, and community, utilizing research, education, and collaboration to protect the beauty and the health of this beautiful estuary where we all live, work, and play. I also want to point out that I will have some QR codes throughout the presentation, and just a little suggestion for if you want to utilize them, if you want to email yourself the link that it brings you to so you can easily find it later. Just a little quick tip. Next slide, please. So why is it so important to upgrade your septic system to an IA OWTS? Traditional septic systems don't actually treat your wastewater. Instead, they release that polluted water directly into the ground, contaminating our groundwater, working its way into our sole source aquifer where we all get our drinking water from, and eventually to our surface waters. It creates water that is so polluted that it is no longer safe to swim and recreate in, and it damages our ecosystem and harms wildlife. Wastewater contains high levels of nitrogen, which is a leading cause of water quality issues and water pollution on Long Island. So basically, algae love to eat nutrients like nitrogen, and so when levels of nitrogen and other nutrients are too high, it causes harmful algal blooms, also known as HABs. And these blooms can cause major changes in water chemistry, including high pH, changes to dissolved oxygen levels, and the lack of oxygen created by the decomposing algae can result in fish kills and generally harms all types of aquatic life and important aquatic ecosystems like eelgrass and shellfish beds. Harmful algal blooms also produce toxins that are linked to adverse health effects in humans, wildlife, and domestic pets. Additionally, when septic systems fail and potentially have a catastrophic failure, it can lead to sewage backing up into your home, foul odors, and damage that can be devastating and extremely expensive to repair. Upgrading now means avoiding future headaches, protecting your health, the environment, and wildlife, And while we can't fully predict the future, we do know that right now grant funding is available. So the sooner you apply for grant funding and upgrade your septic system, the sooner you can have peace of mind. Next slide. So this map shows us examples of harmful algal blooms, HABs, on Long Island, particularly in areas you may be concerned with. So for example, on Shelter Island, Trachodinium blooms can be found, which is also known as rust tide, you may have heard of, which is lethal to many species of fish and shellfish. And while generally the water quality in the eastern part of the estuary is better, you can see that in inner embayments like Menantic Creek, there are more water quality challenges. Next slide. So here I have a graph of the nitrogen sources and a map of ecological sensitivity. So if we turn our attention to the upper left-hand corner, we can see that wastewater, I know it's kind of hard to see, but the biggest area right there in blue, it says wastewater. And so we can see that that is the #1 source of nitrogen pollution in Menantic Creek. Additionally, looking at the map, we can see the groundwater travel times. So that is the time it takes for water that soaks into the ground to travel into our aquifer and surface waters. And that is around 0 to 2 years in the red there, which is extremely quick and really emphasizes the importance for homes in that area to upgrade. And then in orange, we use 0 to 10 years, and in yellow, 10 to 25. Next slide. And so looking at West Neck Harbor, we can see something very similar. That wastewater is also the #1 cause of nitrogen pollution here. And we can also see the importance of homes upgrading in this area, again, emphasized by those really quick groundwater travel times. Next slide. So let's talk about the good news, because you will have the exciting opportunity to be a part of the solution that I just laid out in the previous slides. And don't worry, you're not doing it alone. New York State, Suffolk County, and the town of Shelter Island are here to support you. But we'll get back to that. First, let's break down how by upgrading, you become the hero of this story. IA OWTS technologies are the smarter, more advanced way of dealing with something that is pretty gross and no one likes to talk or think about: wastewater. But simply put, drinking and swimming in water contaminated with what we're flushing down the toilet is even grosser. That's why it's important to face these issues head on and upgrade to technologies that help keep clean the water we most want clean, the water we drink and swim in. These new and improved systems remove 70% of nitrogen, the cause of all the issues we just talked about. So you will be getting ahead of potential catastrophic failures and actually increasing your property value. Additionally, you will be a leader in the field and will be setting an example for your friends and neighbors that by upgrading to these more modern and efficient systems, that is the way to go, and you will create a domino effect until every home on Long Island is eventually upgraded. So you can be a part of creating cleaner, more healthy Long Island by making these upgrades to your home that will not only give you the peace of mind that you're avoiding the catastrophic failure, but you will feel pride that you're a part of something bigger than yourself and are making a true difference. Next slide. So now we'll get into some of the details, like the different types of IA-OWTS technologies. There are several types of systems approved by Suffolk County. The 4 most popular brands are the Hydro Action, the Fuji Clean, the Septic Tech Star, and the Renco Avantex AX20. But there are many more approved for pilot and experimental use. Next slide. All these systems are tested and the water quality outputs are monitored by the county to ensure that the performance of these systems meets certain standard and criteria. Next slide. You will work with your installer and your engineer to choose a system best for your property, so you don't have to worry about that right now. Next slide. So now let's discuss how you can get support and financial assistance to upgrade. New York State and Suffolk County both offer grant funding you can apply for with a single application to help make upgrading more affordable and to help you avoid paying for the system out of your own pocket while you're just trying to do something that benefits the environment and the community. Additionally, the town of Shelter Island has a rebate program you can also apply for to get even more financial assistance to help you upgrade. In some cases, when utilizing these programs, you can even get the entirety of the system covered. Furthermore, there are people working in Suffolk County and for the town of Shelter Island that are more than happy to take your calls and respond to your emails to help you with every step of this process to make it as simple as possible. Plus, I'm here today and I'm always available by email to break it all down for you so you can hopefully leave here today feeling confident in your ability to take on this project and feel ready to take action as soon as today. Next slide. So how much money can you get towards upgrading from these grants? Well, with the Suffolk County Septic Improvement Program, SIP, you can get $15,000 base grant or with an additional $5,000 if you are considered low or middle income. Then the New York State Septic System Replacement Program, SSRP, offers $10,000. So already with just one application, you could be eligible for $25,000 or $30,000 for low and middle income households. Systems usually cost around $20,000 or $30,000, which means at this point, the majority of the cost is already covered. But if you still need additional assistance, there is a low interest loan available. Next slide. But we're not done. As a resident of Shelter Island, you are lucky enough to be eligible for an additional $12,000. And furthermore, Shelter Island offers $4,000 for well relocation if needed and $5,000 for pressurized shallow drain fields. So that's $37,000 to $51,000 when you combine the county, state, and town programs. Slide. So now let's talk eligibility. First thing to remember, particularly for the county grant, is you must apply before you install. You will need to provide certain documents, so I highly recommend gathering all the necessary documents before you start any other step in the process. First thing you need is your certificate of occupancy. If for some reason you don't have one or you can't find yours, you can request a copy from the town clerk's office. And you will also need your tax bill. If your system is already in catastrophic failure, you will be given prioritization and you'll get your grant sooner, but you will need to submit proof, which could just be photos showing the failure or a letter from your engineer. If you are applying for the additional funding available to low and middle income households, you will need to provide proof of eligibility by submitting your tax return. If your property is owned by a trust, LLC, or corporation, there will be additional documentation needed. If your property is in foreclosure or is tax liens, unfortunately, you are not considered eligible for the grant. Additionally, the vendor you choose for your system must be on the approved county list, which you can find on the county SIP website. And just to make sure you understand, the county grant will be paid directly to the vendor, which helps you avoid any out-of-pocket costs. If for some reason you decide you only want to apply for the state grant and not the county grant, you don't have to have the vendor on the approved list and you can apply after installation. But that is only for the state grant and not the county grant. When it comes to prioritization and who gets their grant the fastest, there are two main factors. One being if you're in catastrophic failure, you're automatically given a score of 100, top prioritization, and given approval within only a few days. If your system is failing but not considered a catastrophic failure, you're given a score of 90 and you're next to be prioritized and given grants. And then after that, you are assigned based on your groundwater travel time of the location you're in, which, as I spoke about a little bit earlier, that just means how long it takes for your wastewater to travel to our aquifer and our surface waters. Next slide. So let's go over what you should expect from this process. Firstly, costs. As I briefly mentioned earlier in the presentation, the average cost of a system has a give or take range of $20,000 to $30,000, so it is very possible that the grant could cover the entirety of the system itself. However, you should expect additional costs that vary from location to location for things like design, engineering, or restoration. Additionally, there will be yearly maintenance costs at around $300 to $600 a year. However, the grant covers 3 years of maintenance, and we at the Peconic Estuary Partnership are working with the county to, in the future, provide an additional 3 to 5 years of maintenance for people within the Peconic Estuary, which could help you cover approximately a total of 8 years of total maintenance. Other than costs, you should expect yard disturbance, as they will need to dig a big hole on your property to place the system in. And I encourage people to utilize the Peconic Estuary's Homeowner Rewards Program and apply this spring, as we provide a $500 reimbursement to homeowners who purchase native plants or a rain barrel. And you can utilize these funds to help replant your yard with native plants and provide an even further benefit to our environment. There will also be exposed covers needed for ease of maintenance, but people come up with many creative ways to hide the covers or make them look nicer, as you can see here with stones, or you may have seen in other photos with flower beds. And lastly, there will be control panels on the side of your house with any other of your home's utility systems. Next slide. So now I'm going to break down the entire process step by step. So firstly, before you even apply, you should confirm eligibility. So in addition to what I mentioned earlier, you cannot be in a proposed sewer district or be new construction. New construction is required to install one of these new technologies, but is not eligible for a grant. So what this means is if your property does not already have a septic tank or cesspool, it is considered new construction. You must already have a system that you are replacing to be eligible. Next, utilizing the county's approved list, you'll choose a vendor and get a quote. Then you will find a licensed design professional / engineer that is familiar with the grant process. And you want to do this first because they're going to help you throughout every stage of this process. And it is recommended that before you apply, you have the engineer visit your property to discuss layout and feasibility to avoid delays down the line. I also suggest you get ahead and begin choosing your maintenance provider, as you will need that before you're able to get a grant, but oftentimes this can just be your installer. And as I mentioned earlier, you should gather all the required documents before you apply so you don't run into any issues. So that includes your most recent time issued property tax bill. If in system failure, you want either photos, debt service receipts. If you are low middle income, you're going to want the first 2 pages of your signed federal tax return, Form 110, and you may redact your social security number for privacy. Recorded property deed, valid certificate of occupancy. And if you are in a trust or LLC, you'll need the following things, or corporation. A trust, you'll need your trust agreement, signed statements saying the documents are current. LLC, you'll need your operating agreement, articles of organization, signed statements from members. And a corporation, you'll need your bylaws, articles of incorporation, and the signed statement. Next. Oh, and also there are in-depth details, step-by-step instructions, more in-depth than this, on the county SIP website under user guide. And you're welcome to scan the QR and be taken directly there, and you can email it to yourself to find it later. Next slide. So once you submit your application, you just simply wait until your application is reviewed, approved, and assigned prioritization. And once you are approved, you will receive an email with your grant award package for you to e-sign, and you must sign and return that within 30 days of when you received it. Next slide. The next couple steps are mostly taken by your engineer and installer, but I wanted to go over them so you can have a full understanding of the process. So your engineer is going to finalize the design, submit a permit to construct to the Suffolk County Office of Wastewater Management, and help obtain any permits if needed. Once the engineering design is approved, your installer will submit a price quote, and then you will receive your grant eligibility memo. If the cost for some reason exceeds the grant, now would be the time to choose if you want the low interest loan. But now we get to the exciting part, installation. The county inspector will visit your property and oversee the installation. And then once installed, the engineer submits a final as-built plan, and then the installer submits final certificate forms. Then you, as a homeowner, must submit an operation and maintenance agreement and system registration form from your chosen maintenance provider. Once all that is complete, your installer submits their invoice directly to the county, who, like I said, will pay them directly. If there are any remaining costs, you will be responsible for paying those. But most likely, most of it or all of it will be covered. Next slide. So we don't expect the homeowner to be entirely responsible for the future of water quality on Long Island. At the Peconic Estuary Partnership, we take a variety of steps and have a variety of initiatives to help protect and restore water quality. And while I can't go over every single thing we are doing at PEP, I have a few examples here. So water quality monitoring, we have regular monitoring and reporting of water quality issues. We track levels of nitrogen, dissolved oxygen, pathogens, and more to help us make informed decisions and bring awareness to the community. We have our homeowners rewards program, which I talked about earlier, and this provides homeowners a $500 reimbursement for planting native plants, installing rain barrels, or other sustainable landscaping practices. Native plants help improve water quality by filtering out pollution, helping the use of fertilizers, and rain barrels prevent stormwater runoff pollution. And then we have our Changes projects. Changes stands for creating habitat, acidification reduction, nitrogen bioextraction, guarding our shorelines, erosion control, and sequestering carbon. And it's basically an experiment to see if by utilizing the combinations of kelp, eelgrass, and oysters, we can improve water quality and protect our shoreline. Originally, we did have 2 locations here on Shelter Island, including Menantic Creek and a site by the South Ferry, but unfortunately, due to in Menantic Creek particularly, the water quality was so low that we did not have optimal growth of the seagrasses and the oysters. And at the South Ferry site, the wave action was too heavy. So unfortunately, we do not have those locations anymore. However, we are hopeful that with our remaining locations, water quality improvements can benefit the waters between Southampton and Shelter Island, ultimately providing a benefit to Shelter Island. Next slide. Yeah, and that's it. Now you can sit back, relax, and enjoy the peace of mind knowing you avoided a catastrophic failure, and feel pride knowing that you made a huge difference for your community, the environment, and your health. And now I'm happy to answer any questions. And if you can't think of some now, you think of some later, you can contact me. My contact information is here, and I also have a card at the front. Any questions? Yes.
After these improvements are made, is there a timeline where there would be issues of dangerous water right after it's done? I mean, we have to wait a period of time before we can say the water is safe?
No, so once it's installed, all the water that goes through it, flushing your toilets, etc., will go through the system of filtration, and
No, but I mean, the water existing.
the water that was already, so because of groundwater travel time,
Or the ground.
yeah, so it will take, depending on your area, sometimes, 0 to 2 years, sometimes 10 years, sometimes 20 plus years for that water to eventually enter our aquifer and our surface waters. So that's why the sooner you replace it, the better, because once that water has entered our groundwater, there's not much we
We
can do
still
about
have to
it.
be diligent about, monitoring.
Yeah, for sure. Yes.
Are all the systems very large in terms of the space that they take up? So my neighbor recently redid, installed one, and it was like 220 by 20 deep holes and then a huge trench with 3 devices, put into it. It takes up a tremendous amount of lawn space. to
So
really
there
look
are
at.
different systems or different sizes, but they will be significant size, and depending on your property, your engineer will work with you to figure out which system is best for your property, because sometimes the smaller systems might be better, or sometimes depending on, your piping and how things are with your house already, it might be simpler just to put in a bigger system. So it really just depends on your particular property.
And is the old system removed at the time the new system is put in?
Yes, it's removed.
Just one other question. Say, we make this, a homeowner makes this improvement. Say his existing neighbors do not, is this going to also, affect the one that made the improvements? In other words, he would still be in harm's way?
Well, yeah, so until every system on Long Island is upgraded, and even then, like I said, with groundwater travel times, unfortunately, what your neighbor's doing does affect all of our water quality. So everything from having a septic system to using fertilizers on your lawn. If your neighbor's using fertilizers on your lawn and you're not, unfortunately, all our water quality is still being affected by that. That's why it's important we all come together.
So is it gonna be mandated that everybody does it?
So new construction is mandated,
No,
and
not
we,
new construction, say, existing.
I can't say 100%, but if I had to predict, I would probably say yes, eventually it will, and in other places it has been.
So if the current system fails, the one that you have today fails, are you then required to replace it with a new system?
Unfortunately, not yet. You are still able to replace it with another septic system. But that's why we're trying to get the word out there so people don't, because I've had people come to me and say, I just put in a new septic system. And so, they're not gonna wanna change right away. So we're trying to get people aware. Yes?
I have a IA system and it works great and I have no problem with it at all. The problem was it took forever to get the grants. I mean, it took like 8 months and
Yeah.
it was just terrible.
Yeah, so the county is working on a lot of streamlining efforts. First off, having the e-sign available and the online application makes things go a lot quicker. They don't have to process all that paperwork as much. They're also hiring more people to go through the applications, and additional streamlining efforts are being brainstormed as we speak.
Inside these licenses that they can clean up the wastewater.
So it depends on the system, but basically it has sort of, it kind of eats up the nitrogen. They kind of put different sorts of things in there that eat the nitrogen, and
What eats up the
certain types, sometimes they'll add different types of bacteria or something like that. I'm not an expert on that part of it.
well,
I have considered having an installer come with me to some of these things to be able to
Once
speak
again,
more to
if
that,
it's
but
using bacteria, how does it work in the wintertime?
Megan's her hand up.
Does it just pollute?
Excuse me, Meg could step in here and perhaps, a lot of them work with aeration and whatnot, but Meg's better qualified. Meg?
My question is, how does it work in the winter months when bacteria slow down to a,
I don't know if bacteria was the right word. I might have said the.
If you could let Meg chime in, I think she might be able to clarify some things.
Yes.
Yeah, I can help clarify. The systems do use bacteria, and it's the naturally occurring bacteria in the wastewater. So it's in, the bacteria that goes down the kitchen sink when you're cleaning your dishes. It's the bacteria from your laundry when you wash your clothing. It's the bacteria that occurs in your wastewater when you flush your toilet or take a shower. And all of that bacteria does what it naturally does in the environment, which is break down nitrates and nitrites into nitrogen gas and water. So what the systems all do, and they all do it in a slightly different way, is they recreate the naturally occurring nitrogen cycle in our environment, but in a closed container. So they do it through a process of aeration and and also by creating an anoxic environment. So it adds oxygen and then it takes the oxygen away, and then the bacteria break down the nitrates and nitrites in order to get like water and nitrogen gas. In the winter, I see where you're going with that because you figure it gets colder, everything slows down, the bacteria go dormant. But what is actually happening is that the temperature in that tank stays pretty warm because you're using hot dishwashing water, you're using hot showers, you're using your hot sink when you're doing your dishes. So you are putting hot water into the system, and then the bacteria themselves do create some heat, not a significant amount. But if you ever look in someone's lawn after a snow, and you'll see the 3 green lids or 2 lids, depending on the type of system, have no snow on top because that's much warmer than the whole area around it. So it does kind of create its own heat, and you do put warm water into it from your house when you do your laundry and things like that. So the bacteria do work well year round.
Thank you so much, Meg. Really appreciate that.
How about houses that are empty?
In the winter,
Yeah.
people all go away
Second
from.
homeowner.
Well, if no one's there to be adding waste to the water, right? No one's flushing their toilet if no one's living there, so it shouldn't really be
They
an
go
issue.
dormant.
They do, yeah, they go dormant. So
And- but
yeah, the
I
bacteria
think
go
you-
dormant. And then if there's no water going into the system, there's not going to be any water leaving the system. So it reaches an equilibrium if it's not being used. So the bacteria go dormant. And then when you start feeding the system again, the bacteria come back and they start working. But you're not going to be losing wastewater in that time when the system's not being used, because the amount of water coming into the system is going to equal the amount leaving the system. So it finds an equilibrium.
Thank you, Meg.
You know what the wait times are for approval at the Department of Health? I mean, I have an application in for about 14 months.
Yeah, it really depends on your prioritization.
Would you know what it is for the different prioritization?
So if you have a catastrophic failure, it's within 2 days. If it's regular failure, it's quicker. I can't speak to the exact times. I know there are people who have reported that they're waiting that long, but they're trying to really fix that, get rid of that backlog. That's why they're adding these things like the electronic e-sign and hiring more people to go through applications.
Well, that's the front end, right? Electronic e-sign.
Well, it helps them process the applications quicker too.
So anecdotally, what's the longest you've heard? I've been on 14 months right now.
That might be the longest I've heard.
You should break your system and that'll be catastrophic.
Have you
Anybody have
been
a backhoe?
calling and, following up, kind of poking them, calling? If you want to email me, I can poke them for you. That's what I would suggest to do, because it might just be that so many catastrophic failures are happening that those are taking up their immediate attention of the people who are working there right
I
now.
mean, how do you know it's just not lost in the system?
Well, yeah, you should call them and email me and, make sure that you're poking them and reminding them, because there's a lot coming in,
Yeah, I guess-
especially with
I thought the engineer was handling all that, but I don't follow.
you might have to follow up with your engineer and tell them to poke or,
The woman, Joan Crawford, who works there, is a good resource to get her specifically.
Are there special challenges when houses are near enough to one another and you're trying to calculate the distances to wells on, in front of you, behind you, next door to you? There's a minimum
Sure, and that's why the engineers should visit your property before you apply, make sure you're eligible, get things started so that things can be done quicker and you don't have to worry too much about those hurdles. It really depends on the different locations. There are certain factors, how close you are to the water, how close you are to your neighbor, that will determine where you put your system, how you put it in, and things like that.
And is that initial design phase then something that the homeowner pays for?
It is, so that sometimes gets helped out by your town rebate program, thankfully. So a lot of times, like, the system itself will be covered by the state and county grant, and then those get issued right to the installer. And then I know for Southampton, maybe Meg can chime in, I believe also for Shelter Island, that the rebate can be paid directly to you to help reimburse you for some of those extra costs, like the engineering costs and things like that.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And
Yes.
there's also,
You know, just generally speaking, what the science of the system is, like, is it like solid waste goes in one tank? Also, the general
Different
science,
systems are different, but generally, the solid and the liquid waste would be separated.
Similar to a regular septic tank, you know, you have a baffle in there, you know, the solids settle out, and that's why the maintenance is important. Anybody with a conventional septic should have every 5 years their tank cleaned out. Most people don't think about it until it bubbles up in their lawn or in their basement. But, you know, just, you know, like these IA systems need the maintenance. A standard system should get it as well. But yes, so it separates out the liquid effluent is discharged and the solid is.
is the maintenance, just getting it pumped out, or is it more to it?
There's more to it. I think that they do testing to see what the quality of the effluent is, and you know, that's reported to the county, and that's required by the county.
So yeah, exactly what he said. They'll be testing the water and making sure that it is up to the standards of the levels of nitrogen and things like that.
Hey, could you go back to the West Neck Harbor slide, please?
To the, which
West
side?
Neck Harbor slide?
Yeah.
I had a question.
That would be, so just one sec.
There it is.
Alright, so I'm trying to get to the why we should do this and what the urgency is, right? What this shows me is the years it takes for the water to get to the aquifer. Alright, whether it's clean or dirty water, that's the same. And then the pie chart shows me the sources of, I think you said the nitrates or something. But it doesn't tell me the level of the nitrates. It doesn't tell me whether this is super urgent because levels are super elevated, whether we have nothing in nitrates whatsoever. It just happens that 60% or so of nothing comes from wastewater. So what is the quality of the water in West Neck Harbor?
Well, the quality of the water is you know, evidenced by, you know, the lack of, you know, shellfish and whatnot in that water. I mean, the Manana Creek keepers, for instance, are, you know, in existence for that very reason, you know, just to improve that quality. I mean, up in the end of West Neck, you know, it doesn't flush out as it should, you know, as well as it can, you know, and the discharge of nitrogen-laden effluent is detrimental to any spawning shellfish or, you know, finfish. Certainly it's detrimental to eelgrass. So I think the evidence of the quality of the tidal wetlands is how this is measured, how the problem is measured.
So
The county.
we don't have some kind of number, we don't have some kind of scale, we don't have.
We are working with the Gobler Lab, and we are coming out with a new water quality monitoring report, which will have all of that kind of laid out. Also, when we had our sites here for the Changes Project, that was getting, the water quality was being monitored like every 2 weeks. And so we do have those numbers. I don't have them directly in front of me, but if you wanted to email me, I could get you the numbers from our previous water quality monitoring report. And I suggest you all keep your eyes out for the new water quality monitoring report, which we're just waiting on Gobler to get us the final numbers on that.
can I also add that, like, it's quite important to get your water tested. That's something you could do right on your own, just to know what's on your own property.
Right, so I happen to live in West Neck Harbor, right, and if I see this right, I'm in one of the red zones there, and I just did that, and I think 0 pickup, nothing, across the entire board, not one number pickup, so below every single level rate. Which is great for me where I live, right, it may not be representative for the area, but I can't reconcile those two things, or I'm trying to reconcile those two things, right? So I did the test by Suffolk County, flying colors, great. I'm hearing this, we need to do something. I'm hearing, I don't want to use the wrong word, but anecdotally, we don't have eelgrass, or it's going down, or we believe that's related. But I don't know what the urgency is, right? I don't know. I'm trying to understand the why. I'm trying to understand why is this such an effort? Why are all these grants there? Why should I do this? This is not a hidden doubt. It's truly, I want to learn why all the effort.
My answer to that would be that while there may be certain specific areas that, I don't know what exactly you tested for, I haven't obviously seen your test, but while there may be certain specific areas, it's really overall, like I said, we have one sole source aquifer, and eventually, once our water reaches the surface waters, it all kind of ends up leading all to the same place. And so what's happening from one place is going to affect everywhere else. And so maybe you are very lucky living in an area that the water quality is okay. And there might be some areas like that on Long Island and in Shelter Island. Overall, the water quality is suffering, and that is evident through water quality monitoring tests and through, like he said, the loss of eelgrass beds and shellfish and, fish kills and harmful algal blooms and things like that, people getting sick. So I would say it's an overall issue.
I'd make another comment. So the town funded testing in the center, and I think 100 people participated in that.
140 or 60.
Okay. And it was interesting because it's spotty. You can have a house here. We don't know whose house. I'm not trying to say that we know specific. We know an area, but let's just say the house, you could be at a 10 level, which is bad, and the house next door is at a 2 level. There is no rhyme or reason to it. There is an assumed number of kilograms of nitrogen that are produced by the number of people in the house. So if you have 2 people in the house, it's going to be less than 4 people in the house, but there's per person over a 12-month period, you're going to produce X amount of kilograms of nitrogen. The goal is to get that out of the water because we know that the nitrogen is detrimental.
I answers this feedback. If you want to recruit more people to do this, to have a slide that shows something like that, even if it's qualitatively rather than quantitatively, that says, we believe that the 2,000 year-round people on Shelter Island and 8,000 year-round and summer people on Shelter Island produce this much in nitrates and nitrogen, and it actually should only be that much, and we could do that if we have these systems. Now I'm listening. Now I have a logic behind it. I just, in all honesty, I've got a little bit of a tough time to do a $30,000 project ripping up my yard because and no offense, but we believe that eelgrass is suffering because of my septic system. So, no, but I'm just trying to, I'm as much a resident here as anyone else, and I want this to remain how it is or even get better. So if we were to share more information and make it a little bit more convincing, the urgency of why we need this, that would probably help others to just understand why this is necessary and not just quote a program.
So a slide on specific numbers of dissolved oxygen and nitrogen in specific embayments, is that what you're saying?
I appreciate that it's water, right? It goes in one end and now the entire aquifer is affected, right? You can't just go this street or that center or Heights or something. So I appreciate that. But if we took all of Shelter Island, all of the East End, and we had a number that said, we're generating this per person who lives here. And the halftime is blah, so we're accumulating every year more and more of it, and we get into levels which we believe are dangerous at whatever it is, 500 units, and we're at 470. So it's 5 to midnight, like whatever you want to call it, I don't know, but something that explains to me why it's urgent for me to act today. Right. The financing is great because I'm like, oh, this is going to go away one day. Maybe I should act, but that's the wrong incentive. I have to act.
Well,
Well, yeah, eventually it might be, a requirement and the grant might not be available, but no, I appreciate your feedback. This is my second time in this presentation, and I'm adjusting it every time, so I'm happy to take any suggestions from anyone.
So as Tui mentioned, we had sent out cards to the center area because that tends to be the most nitrogen producing. It's called a nitrate red triangle. And some people agreed to have their water tested, some people did not. What you're asking would entail funding someone going to every single house on the island of Shelter Island, having their water tested, letting us know and use your site location. As Tui said, people did not allow us to say, this came from this house, that came from that house. So that's why we don't know. We can see hot areas, but we don't know exactly which house produced what or whatever. So what you're asking is extremely labor intensive and also very expensive.
Well,
I'm not an expert on how to make.
I think further, you can quantify, the science says that, the average person in a house produces 12 milligrams per day of nitrogen, which goes into into whatever your system may be. And that nitrogen, like where you live, it doesn't go into your well, it goes into the tidal wetlands. Where they live on Thomas Street here, it goes into this lens of fresh water that everybody drinks from. It's taken years and years and years to have this build up. Shelter Island, started off, with not that many people on it, and now how many people are on it there? So it's a problem that's built over many years, and where Rachel has touched mainly on what the effects of tidal wetlands, the nitrogen there, but nitrogen in water in general, which Shelter Island being unique to most everywhere else on Long Island, we depend on either private wells or wells that are that are municipal wells, but they're still wells in our aquifer. So it's really important for the people to, do what they can to try and make sure whatever's going in is as clean as they can make it. There's more than nitrogen that should come out of the water. That's why anybody who has the space should consider a pressurized shallow drain field, because that also gets out pharmaceuticals and phosphorus, and I'm not sure if it does PFAS, but it is much more effective than a leaching pool that is down near where the aquifer is. But sometimes space constraints limit that, limit the best scenario.
You may find in the Suffolk County website, Reclaim Our Water. And that they have reports there of when they tried different systems and what degree of reduction of nitrates coming out of the effluent. I think that's what you were looking for, but I'm not certain. But look in that, that may be helpful to help you understand.
And the Blue Water Initiative, is it?
Blue Water Task
Force, that's another one that has been monitoring all of the East End, Shelter Island included, bays and harbors and whatnot. That they have a website that you can go to and look for quantification of things that they found in the various bodies that they sample.
Also, the town of Shelter Island has had numerous presentations in front of town board, right? Albert and Amber, so we can probably get those links too, or someone can just do a search and find them too. And those PowerPoints are probably still on the website. But as Greg said, when they came out with the grant program, they had to base it on science, and they had to have a rationale for wanting to put forth these systems. So maybe you could get it from PEP in the county, because I was looking at the Reclaim Water website just before Greg said that, and it's not quite obvious when you get to the website. You have to do a little bit of digging, so maybe if you can pull up
what he's looking for from here, it might work a little easier.
Yeah,
Like I just
I know
tested it out and it was.
Julia at Suffolk County has those in her files, and I can ask her to share those with me, and if I can start including those in my presentation, but for anyone here who's interested, if you want to email me, I can get that information for you, yeah. Yes.
Where would we go as an individual if we wanted to get our water tested? And also being ignorant to this, like Home Depot sells the water test kits, is that effective?
No, the best deal going is applying to Suffolk County Health Department to get one of, their testers out here and sample your water. It costs $100, but it's a broad spectrum test
And it's
that
fast,
you
too.
would pay,
No, not
you would
that.
pay like $1,200.
3 months,
2 to 3
It
months.
depends, but they tell you right away if there's something wrong.
yes.
It's probably no news is good news in that. But you do get a very involved, in-depth report about what your water is like.
Is the maintenance annual or semi-annual?
Annual.
And the system needs to be running when it's done, so if you're a second homeowner, you would want the maintenance done while you're in the house.
That's a really smart train of thought. That would make sense, right?
Meg has.
Meg,
use.
Meg,
Right?
The county requires that service be done on the systems twice a year. So the contract is for, all right, let me rewind. The county requires a 3-year maintenance contract. Some maintenance providers will allow you to pay that contract annually instead of the 3 years up front. The maintenance requirements are that the system gets serviced every 6 months. So depending on the time of year your system was installed, that will kind of determine when 6 months is from the time it was turned on. So I know most maintenance providers try to kind of push the services to the spring and the fall so as to not disrupt people's summer season. And you don't have to be present to have the maintenance done. It does help if the system's running, and the systems can be left running all the time. They don't have to be shut down if you leave. But that's kind of up to the homeowner. As long as they notify the maintenance provider, then the maintenance provider can know to go and start it up a week or 2 weeks before the homeowner comes back out so that the system's ready. But that's kind of a discussion to have between the homeowner and the maintenance provider.
When you say leave the system running, what is running the whole time?
It depends on the system, but most of the systems have a small air blower, and that air helps to keep the bacteria working. Some of them have a mechanical recirculation in them, so there's a pump inside that moves the water from one chamber to another. Some use the air to recirculate the wastewater. So it really depends on the type of system that you have.
And is the air blower, I think you said, or the water recirculator, are those above ground and thus audible, or are they below ground and I won't know that they're running?
The blowers, the air blowers are typically above ground, but they're very, very quiet. So you typically can't hear them. If there's a mechanical component like a pump in the tank, then that would be below ground in the tank itself.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks again, Meg.
I have a phone number for the Department of Health Drinking Water Department. If you want to call them, they'll tell you how to apply. I think you can also just do it online.
Let's go online. It's very easy.
But it's 631-852-5810.
Ask for Donna, she's really good.
Well, I actually have a question for the committee. The rebate, is it only available to property owners who claim Shelter Island as their primary residence?
No. the shelter-on rebate, is contingent on,
Oh, I know there are other.
there's a lot of things,
Requirements,
mainly that
but-
you're not gonna do work that's gonna increase the density on the property in terms of bedrooms and number of people. I mean, there isn't also in the code that if you increase the square footage, the enclosed square footage of your house more than 25%, whether it's a bedroom or not, you're
Triggers.
you're then mandated, which then would preclude you from a grant from the town.
So you mentioned that there are several different types of systems that might be recommended. Are they generally in the same price range, or something's expensive and something's inexpensive? What's the?
So, yeah, so it does depend, they do vary. They have that information on the website, in this packet.
Reclaim Our Water website.
Packet, but on the Reclaim Our Water website and the county SIP website, they have all of that broken down by system of what the approximate costs are.
And just speaking to that, I mean, every installation from our experience is very unique. And, it's not a cookie cutter thing. It's not like going into Levittown where everything is the same, same house, same septic system, and just like banging them out. I mean, sometimes it was brought up before about, the separation between wells and septic systems and neighboring wells and their septic systems. Generally, the health department considers the best fit, which sometimes then requires you to move your well. Certainly if you have a well in your basement, which less and less people do, that would have to get remediated. If the neighboring well, is too close, then you may have to move your septic system from where it was to the other side of your property, which then necessitates, internal plumbing work to get the waste line, fed to the other side of the house. So there are a lot of things, that you have to really look at, and getting the engineer to really look at the job on site, in the flesh, so to speak, is important.
The perimeters also, isn't this, hotels, lots of businesses are, in this island is, I'm not speaking for everywhere, but have, want to be on the waterfront. So if you think of anything like a Pridwin, I'm not picking on any company, that's one of the ones that hit me. They're all waterfront and there's houses around there. Obviously, it's a different kind of impact, isn't it?
It's a point source. It's funny you should mention it. It's on our agenda. It's an ongoing topic that, we'll be touching on later on. But the Pridwin, for instance, does have IA systems in the new.
I just said that as an example of
Right.
someone.
I mean, and that's what we would encourage. Everyone encourages all these places, like the school, for instance, just, did their system,
Yes.
And that was a point source. So, collecting all that effluent is much more important than a house here and a house there.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
I think
No, you're 100% right.
You're, what is tested, if you're
Right.
next door to,
Oh, yeah, I mean, if you're next door to, a big facility, I mean, if you live behind the school on Thomas, right? Or Duval, whatever, that street back there is pretty bad with nitrogen. Yeah, whether it came from the school or not, it's hard to say. Maybe.
There's also stormwater runoff, fertilizer use, so it's not just septic systems that are the issue, which is, at PEP we're trying to
It's,
discuss on it all, but it is a big part of it, for sure.
you should think about before you do anything on your property, whether you want to end up drinking it or not. It's really important, whether it be something on your lawn or something you're flushing down the toilet.
Any questions?
I think the town, the state grant I've heard is going to $25,000.
The county grant is gonna be increasing.
To 20,000.
As well. I can't speak on the exact numbers right now.
I've heard it's sort of imminently, but not quite there yet.
We're almost there. Yeah, Julia, I've been in touch with her a lot for all these things, and she's been telling me she's gonna let me know exactly when, so I can get new fact sheets, update my presentation, but yeah, we're not quite ready yet for that.
This possibly can hit us the other way if our neighbors don't participate in this. Right?
Well, we all want to lead by example, and if you upgrade your system and you have some people over for a barbecue, talk about it. Show them the covers and talk about how it's doing something that's going to help the community, the environment, your health, avoid catastrophic failure, and show people that this is the new cool hot thing to do as a homeowner, and hopefully everyone will follow suit.
If you had your water tested and the nitrates came up over 10, which is the danger number, and you put in an aseptic system, how long would it take for that number to come down?
It depends, it might not come down.
It might be
It might not be from your well. I mean, it
No,
might
I
not be
know.
from your septic system. It might be from, like we were saying, the neighbor's septic system.
Right.
I mean, the more pressure that's put on everybody to do the right thing, the better things get. I mean, it took a long time to make it this way. It's gonna take a while to undo it.
That's why you said that someday it might be mandated.
Someday, might be, yeah.
By the county,
You never know, can't predict the future.
by the county? Mandated by,
County,
Or the
state.
town, or
Yeah,
possible.
Let's ask Congressman, come on, tell us what you.
Yes, I'll tell you all exactly how the future's gonna go. Anything else?
Any other questions?
Well, thank you guys so much for listening to me, giving me your questions. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Rachel Friedman at Penn.
So it's Rachel.Friedman.1
A little longer.
at stonybrook.edu.
I kind of knew that. There's some people there. Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean, quantification is good.
It's fine.
Oh, yes, hey, I was just asking you.
Thank you for your
response.
I also am in the kitchen.
Yeah, nice seeing you.
Yeah, we still have to slides. And I don't know when.
In your other house?
No, when it's over here. We
Oh,
haven't
okay.
gotten it yet.
You're still waiting.
We're waiting for
We
it
have
for years.
wait sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, we wait. I mean, we had a lot of waits because neighbors didn't want to tell where their stuff was. The problem is, no, I mean, there's like always a reason to something.
It's the health department does take a while, and then to get the grant.
Thank you. I appreciate
And she says they are trying to make it.
The November is a continuing source of funding. And some of that, I think, is gonna go to helping grease the wheel.
Doing a recording, we have it on our YouTube.
Live primarily.
This whole thing is gonna be posted on like this.
It's a disaster. People who picked
So
were the worst.
I just haven't gotten it up.
Testing the system has to do the whole thing.
He passed it just
The hose in
I don't
our,
want it posted until it's
went
fully complete.
and thought what I had was.
Understood.
And we had.
Thank you guys so much.
The walls, the bathroom tiles, $250,000 worth of damage and.
Great moments in building history.
It was a real
Real oops moment.
4 through 11.
Nothing to do with.
No, but if the thanks for telling me, and if you need any help with anything now, please come to us, come to our clerk, you can always email us, or I can send you.
Inside somewhere, I don't really care. Okay, Munson.
So the problem is,
So I did the review on Munson, but we are not ready to approve it, or we can conditionally approve it. Don't actually have the engineer's agreement. What I have is, I don't know if Meg's on here.
She's on it.
What I do have is a 2006 survey done by Grosser with some hand-done notation, so it's not
Doesn't cut it.
accurate. Right, doesn't cut it.
And I guess that, when we first set this up, we didn't want to have people have to hire an engineer for
All
25.
they needed is a letter.
Huh?
All they needed is a letter.
Well, okay, well, is this, okay, and this is not a new.
Not an issue.
This is a 2006 survey,
Okay,
which is
never
from when
mind.
the house was built. Yeah,
Never mind.
so it doesn't work.
Yeah, we do have to
You
get.
don't need the survey to apply,
Engineer's letter.
but you're gonna need a survey to do this
Okay.
So, anyway, the point is,
elsewhere.
this is a house that's, 36 South Midway, so it's right on Manatee
Right on,
Street.
right there.
So, there you go.
Speaking of, yeah.
Speaking of, and we're looking at a 6.8 kilogram reduction. It is a full-time, year-round resident. The number could theoretically be higher. They put 245 days. I think they accounted for being away on vacation or something.
I was
But
like-
it is their year-round residence. So,
I mean,
Almost year round.
I don't know, I don't know if it's all, like, that might be right, then those numbers might be.
yeah. So it's a voluntary, gallons of effluent treated annually is 39,200. And again, 6.8 kilograms reduction. So they're not asking for new growth, et cetera. Anyway.
I mean, so we could vote on it and approve it or not approve it contingent upon receiving the letter from the engineer.
Yes.
I mean, I think if we want to make the things flow faster here, we should probably do that, but.
Yes, that's what I think too. And I did put a phone call into I think it's Elizabeth.
Munson.
And I haven't gotten a response yet, so. So I would recommend that we tentatively approve it at the 16,000, 12,000 for the space and the tentative theoretical waste, well replacement.
So 16.
Okay. The second for
I'll
that?
second it.
Any further discussion?
They would just come to, when they get this letter,
They would have to give it
on the Jessica.
Jessica,
Would be
and then she could send them the conditional rebate agreement and all this. So after,
Send
it
that
has to go to the
along
town.
to the town board.
Yes.
Yeah, she'd pass it to the town board. That's fine.
Yes.
Good job.
So all in favor?
All in favor?
Yep.
Aye.
Okay, Pappas, Two-Wheeler Road. That's me. Yep. Or, you didn't do it, did you?
No, I mean, I got your PDF.
The property is in the near shore overlay. It's like 500 feet to either the lagoon or West Neck Creek. It's a voluntary replacement. I would recommend the funding of the base grant. They say that they don't need a well, relocation, but we'll just set it aside because that's what we've been doing. The nitrate reduction is 6.132 kilograms per year. The engineer Sherman Engineering, it's a Fuji Clean Sen 7. I mean, the other thing to mention here is that there's a 6-bedroom house.
Yep.
I mean, they say there's only 2 people there living 365 days a year. However, I mean, I would guess they must get somebody to visit them.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I would guess probably there's a little bit more of a nitrogen reduction based on their room count.
And in a year or two, somebody else may own the house and they've got 6 kids.
Well, they could rent it.
Right, so shoulder on sand and gravel, in doing the install and the maintenance. 54,000 gallons, 6.132 kilograms per year. Home was built in 1985. So yeah, I think.
And they're not doing like a pressurized shallow drainage field.
No.
I should also mention on Munson, there's not enough room for them to do it there.
Right. And I don't believe that there is on this property either. It, you know, it's a corner lot, it's, you know, it's very constrained. So I would ask for a motion to approve Pappas.
I second.
No, I can't make the motion.
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Weber,
All right, two, we just did it.
and you can second.
I second.
For
Any-
16,000.
For $16,000. Any further discussion about it?
Sounds good.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. Right.
Wait, so this correspondence came, this was in addition to, this is new stuff that you just got?
Number 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there was he reached out to Jessica. That's correct, right? You know, and said, what's going on? You know, I had all these problems and blah, 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 you know. So I went back and I looked, you know, what the history had been. And I don't have it all in my head, but, you know, one of the things that was done on that property was that he put down for a whole new electric service. You
I
know,
think I remember.
you know, the fact that he, you know, that it needed to be upgraded in order to do this, it was really not something that, you know, we felt as a committee that it was reimbursable. And then he had like 2 different engineers, as I recall, and different contractors, and they changed horses in midstream, and you know, he had, well, whoever did it, you know, made a huge mess in the back of the house, and you know, I said, well, whatever it was, you know, we felt that was the reimbursement. You know, I mean, I don't recall exactly, but I think it was $7,000 or $8,000. I think
We did reimburse.
we did reimburse it. Yeah, but then he was complaining about it.
He wants more.
And he wanted more, and so I went to the site and looked at it, and you know, spoke to different people, and you know, it was clear that it you know, there was other things that it was really because how he handled it, and you know, things that were not really pertinent to, you know, what we should be reimbursing. I mean, we would certainly pay for the electrical connection for the blower or whatever, you know, for an IA system, but we're not going to pay for the whole service from the road to the house, and, you know, just because it was substandard to begin with. You know, I mean, you could extend, you know, if that was the case, you could extend it to anything, you know, like, but anyway, so I had referred it to Stephen Kiley, and after that, I never heard back from anybody until just now. My gut would be to say that, you know, we discussed it, but, you know, that we don't feel that there's any more that we feel that needs to do.
Did we pay the basic amount of electricity sourcing?
I think we did. I think we interpolated what was the amount would have been.
Yeah,
So I would say that I would just contact him, you know, email him and just say that, you know, we discussed it, but we don't feel there's any more that we can do to help him.
we would, I guess we could be, the town board could overrule us if they wished.
Certainly could. I mean, and I suggested back then that he go approach the town board, you know, because I said they exactly that they could overrule us.
Yeah, this was back in May of 2022.
Right. So that's what we'll do then. I'll write something and send it to you, Jessica. The review of the open and unpaid applications.
So I asked this get put on the agenda because we have a whole host, and I'm gonna jump ahead to financial report. I don't have like that spreadsheet that I handed out, but I was reviewing the audited financial statements for 2024. And one of the footnotes, and it'll get distributed, I'm just waiting to get back, I had some changes that I sent to the auditors, so I'm just waiting for those to get back before we can issue the final audited financial statements for 2024. But one of the items in there is that we have these granted but not yet paid out rebates. And going through the list, and Jessica's starting to pull together the full list, and I've got the spreadsheet on SharePoint, if you go to WQI analysis, that people just from years ago, we have outstanding grants, let me just go to this.
I know one of them.
So they got approved.
We have some that go back to like 2020.
Yeah, well,
So,
everything's approved. All I have to do is get the stuff together and give it to them, or give it to the town.
but even some of the, like, there's people who've had, that were approved back in 2020 that haven't acted on, well, we don't know if they've acted on them. So what I was asking for was just, how do you want to approach these? Should we have Jeff send out letters to people to say, hey, if you're in process, then write us back and say, you know, you, like, this is where you are in the process, or if you don't respond by a certain date, or you don't take action by a certain date, we're going to pull these grants and put this back into the general.
I think that's fair.
I said we did something like that a year or two ago, right? Didn't we kind of strip some of the older folks out?
Yeah, there was just a couple, not that many.
And, you know, you could conceivably advise that the county and state are planning on upgrading the rebates, and we're not gonna try and merge everything. They would do better to start fresh.
The question is, like, do we need to send it, if we're taking away their grant funding, do we need to do with return receipt? So we know that they got it. If they didn't get it, then another step needs to be taken.
Maybe see how it goes without that expense. I mean, let's see how it goes, you know, I mean.
But then you don't know, right?
Well, we'll know
Right,
by
right,
the
right,
level
right,
of response.
Yes, yeah.
You know, if we sent out 50 and, you know, like
Right.
one came back, we'll know that, maybe something's wrong.
I mean, like, I'm actually looking back, especially there's like one from 2018. And at the time, they were waiting for the IRS issue, the 1099s to be cleared up.
Right.
Well, that has since been cleared up, so maybe we incorporate that into the letter. By the way, you know, there's no longer this issue, if that's what was the starting block back then.
You know, that's still a misconception that, you know, people think.
Well, What was the total number that you saw, like, that we could get rid of? I don't know, because I mean, there are some where we're waiting for paperwork, but then others, so it's kind of
Like roughly, like a handful, more than a handful?
Ten list. I need to update this spreadsheet based upon, let me just see if I can pull up, like. The person was out this week, so I should get the reports back next week, and just find my note. Yeah, we have grants outstanding to the tune of like $550,000.
Oh, wow, okay, so that's why I'm asking, because that would be better
So we
utilized.
did get the
That
number
is-
reconciled. So I had a number, Shelby had a number, the auditors had a number, and the big auditors had a different number, so.
That's,
Yeah, good.
Well, even if it's
a few beers of that.
a
Exactly, yeah.
little amount of
I
money.
mean, yeah, I mean, we're in good, you know, we got like 3 million unspent, but it just would be good to clear up, because, I mean, looking at the spreadsheet, it's like a big spreadsheet, like it'd be nice to purge some of that, just
Yes.
make it more manageable for Jess and myself, and eventually just for Jess, because I want to turn over the spreadsheet. I wanna-
Somebody.
I want to get it clean.
Okay, that sounds good. The commercial grant discussion, I did send sort of a, you saw, I think the thing I sent, just the ranges of what you could face. I spoke with Meg, I spoke, with a couple other people. And the range of a commercial system can be huge,
The question is, should we try to come up with some theoretical prioritization?
I think anything that's generating, a lot of effluent, which all these places are, maybe not Maria's Kitchen. Though I'm sure she does a lot more than your house,
Right.
or Eccentric Bagel.
Well, it's
or-
not, it's not effluent, right? So,
It's cooking, actually.
It's cooking, and, it's probably not as like.
I don't think.
Not a lot of people go into a takeout joint saying, I use the toilet.
Use the bathroom.
She won't let you use it.
They just.
They tell
Well,
you
there
to
you go.
go to the public one in the square there.
Well, anyway, maybe it's a bad example, but,
Well, there's the obvious ones. You got the Heights septic, the sewer treatment plant, which,
well, that's, I kind of lumped that sort of in there.
well, but that's a big one. You got the Ram's Head, you got Cockles Harbor Marina, you got, the Heights on its own is what they're needing to upgrade. Then you have Bridge Street, which is
Well, Bridge Street and,
basically they don't even have septic systems.
I know, that's why, we should, it needs to be thought about. The Heights is not really part of this necessarily.
You're not-
They have a system that's approved by the health department and, sort of works.
Sort of.
I think that, it's much better than, what was happening back in the day. But I think, any further customers, if you will, I think they're gonna need some changes. So whether that's something that, we're, want to get involved in, and, I don't even know if I'm not sure who knows the quantification of what they need. They probably do. I'm sure it's not something that they publish that much. I know when I was out there, we didn't.
Wasn't the original legislation, though, was not for commercial places, right?
No, the original legislation for IA grants in this process that we've established
Yeah.
was not for, that was for residential, that streamlined process. Our mandate, water quality improvement, at least to me, would say that, those kind of places, are something we should look at and get upgraded if we can.
Because of the, what do you call it, the source point?
It's a point source of contaminated effluent, right? High nitrogen level effluent. Instead of one or two toilets in a spot, you got like 30.
5 or 8 years ago, when we set out how we did things, we made a decision to not look at that point commercial. And now, and it wasn't the legislation that established the QI fund. It was our decision on terms of
Right.
handling it.
Right. We weren't going to include that in our.
Is that, am I right in that? Is that?
Yeah, because I think for a commercial project, you'd want to have a public hearing just to better understand, because it's going to be a bigger dollar ask.
Yeah.
So, granting $15,000 or $12,000, that wasn't easy, that's where the homeowner, this is where we're gonna be, and it should cover it between the state, county, and town grant. But this is a much bigger undertaking, and so it should have a bigger discussion, especially in the beginning when funds were tight.
Yeah, okay.
And with the county and the state increasing their grant amounts, honestly, most stuff on Shelter Island is gonna get covered. There may be an exception, so now we have the wherewithal to
Or do something.
territory.
So I mean, and this committee may not feel that this is the kind of something we want to do. But I
I'm
mean,
100% thinking it's something we should.
my feeling is that, it's kind of, that's sort of the low hanging fruit
Right.
that could get fixed and maybe make a difference.
So would we go about it by having like a meeting like we did with the homeowners associations, or as we just did with here, Rachel?
I mean, I guess we could. Just say that, but we have to decide sort of
Yeah, maybe change.
what we would like to do, I mean, I think,
We have to-
I was noodling it in my own small head. And, a $25,000 grant, okay, for a smaller thing, like if your nut was $100,000, let's
Right,
say, a $25,000 grant would be not bad,
Because
as
they're
an
getting,
incentive.
they're getting a huge system, so.
Or a bigger system than a residence, probably. I might be wrong. I mean, those examples that maybe that's wrong, but they're using a fair amount of water for sure.
Yeah.
And whether, it's got the same effluent quality that, comes out of your house is probably is different. But certainly any place with transient lodging is that, or multiple employees. I mean, IGA, for instance, I mean, there's a bunch of people working there, and they must go to the bathroom, I would guess.
Wash hands before
Yeah.
leaving.
I mean, my house, whatever. So,
So we think.
I was thinking maybe,
So just so I understand, we'd be thinking about giving a partial funding. for
like an incentive to,
Something.
and may, that may not be enough to kickstart. I mean, I'm that part of this is super open for discussion. I mean, I'm not.
Well, so you've run some businesses that would be high source point businesses.
I know how much water goes
And-
through those places.
And then the relative, how much is left over at the end of the day, that you're gonna
That
reach.
you want to put into infrastructure?
Yeah.
I mean, there should be something left over to do that. I mean, I'm not saying that we should make it, so onerous that, they go out of business.
Right, but I'm saying, so there's a reality to where the breaking point of a business owner is gonna say, well, I'll think about it, or, I'll save up money for the next 5 years to put toward it, but, I can't.
Well, and that may be, or maybe it's, the low-cost loan, 0%,
Yeah,
funding or something, that might be an enticement to get it done, Pay nothing for the first 4 years,
That would be a no-cost loan. I guess my thinking on loans with residential properties is that it's a big pile of different folders,
Right.
Each of the projects.
This
But
might
If
be
you're doing commercial properties, it's we'll try and cover 3 this fiscal year, and next year we'll try and do 3 more to make sure that we maintain the money that we need for residential.
Well, I mean, I think we're fine, at least in this climate, we seem to be, getting the coffers expanded rather than,
Yes.
and now, well, we have this, now maybe $500,000 that, part of some of it, part of which probably will come back into the pot, to be reused. I'm sure some of it will
And
be.
this is something that would be within our charge, so we can do it. Certainly say we
I
didn't
think so. I
do
mean,
commercial
we could
before, but we're thinking about
certainly
commercial now.
give the committee one more question to answer. I mean, but I think it certainly affects, it's water quality. I mean,
I don't think, I'm not really sure, but it would seem to me that Shelter Island can make a decision about its own expenditure of the funds.
I would say.
We're not limited to doing, they just haven't reimbursed for commercial yet.
Right, I mean,
That doesn't mean we
other
can't.
entities have not, and, the fact that they haven't doesn't mean, I think it's maybe more important for Shelter Island to consider it.
Well, we also could try it, and if we don't get any reaction, if it's like he said, if it's the cost of running the business doesn't,
Doesn't warrant it.
doesn't warrant their doing it, then, can't hurt to try it.
Or, and then at some point you maybe pass, in the building code or whatever, that if, a system has to be replaced in a commercial entity, and maybe it has to be an IA system, and then that's when the rubber starts to hit the road, and for which you would be eligible for a grant.
Right.
Maybe that's the way to approach it.
I mean, maybe a conversation with the chamber would be the first place, but,
Yeah, I mean,
Well, we can't have that conversation until we know what we're gonna give. And-
well, yeah, but that's what
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
You're essentially running generally a 5-month business here, and you're trying to eke out a living on that. It's tough.
And
you
we
know?
don't want to kill businesses, but we do want to protect what we have. So,
Right.
meaning, our resources.
The first question that's gonna come back if you go to the business properties is they're gonna say, how much is it gonna cost me? And if we
well,
have any idea of what.
we don't have that answer because we don't know.
Well, did we get any information? Because that was in our minutes. Did anyone, did you ask any of the, did we gather any information or?
What other systems have cost.
Anecdotally, what we know,
Well, I mean, that's, what other information would I get?
Well, so I guess the other information on.
How much is it cost? How much, what's the outlay?
He's
I
asking.
mean, it's like,
Well, he's saying this business, the first thing they're gonna ask is, okay, tell me what the overall cost is, and if you're gonna give me 25,000, I have to know what I'm gonna foot.
I guess we'd have to, look at each business to see, the,
Just like each house is
Right,
different,
it's
each
different.
business is gonna be
I
different.
mean, what is it? I mean, the Ram's Head has 22 rooms, the Sunset Beach has, I don't know, 20. But what's the volume of the restaurant? I mean, there are a lot of things.
Yeah. And of those two places, there's one that runs a little later than the other, right?
And so the county's gotta say, here's what this, I mean, it's not just, they're not just taking a residential system and throwing 3 of them in the
Well, that's
back
true.
room, right? They have different requirements.
They do.
And so, maybe the county might have, if they are doing commercial properties, we might be able to say, okay, it was a restaurant with
Well, I mean,
tables or.
if you got a system sized by the county, for, I remember the one we put in up at the Gardeners Bay Country Club when we built that place. It was gigantic,
The septic system.
septic system.
Yeah.
It was huge, and probably half of it is never going to get touched, because they have, criteria like I forget what it is, 100 gallons per room if it's a transient place, 10 gallons per seat, restaurant seat, I think it is. Depends if it's a seasonal seat or a inside seat, like if it's out under a awning, it's, maybe a little bit less. I forget, but it's, each place has a seating limit, so they would take, at one point, the Chiquit had like a 350 seat approval from the health department, which made the heights go crazy. But, if you multiply that out, that's a giant system.
Does the county engineers design those systems, or do people
It's just criteria that they have set in their in their code, you know,
Oh, I
like
see.
in their building code, you know, for what they, you know, what they feel is the properly sized system. You know, and it's bigger than what you would think that they would need, always. I mean, you could get involved in that. I mean, you know, or
Well, to Greg's point, are there commercially approved systems? I believe there are.
yes. I mean,
So,
there are, and they're on, and they've been installed on Shelter Island.
right. So,
They have been installed on Shelter Island?
well,
The Pridwin has one, the school has one, the library's gonna have one.
What about Pearlman? They have a regular.
Pearlman, they're embarking on their renovation project now, they're gonna have a big one,
Oh, that's
you know, like that's like $750,000 one.
And they're all like Fuji's?
Not necessarily, I mean, Meg might be able to speak to this, better than I, you know, I don't know that, I don't know what was used at, the Pridwin. Meg, do you know?
Yes, the Pridwin used HydroAction.
Okay,
The library is using HydroAction. The school used Fuji. Pearlman is designed for Fuji. So it really depends on the engineer, the flow rate, the type of waste they're gonna get, and the space requirements for the area. So each technology has different components that are required with commercial application, and it also depends on what the understanding of the strength of the wastewater is and the composition of the wastewater. Depends on what kind of pre-treatment you need, how many, the size of the system you need, the size of the leaching you need. So it's all designed very specifically to the site that it's going to be treated. So you would treat a place like a gas station that sells a ton of coffee much differently than you would treat a school, for example, because you're going to get a lot of coffee dumped down the sink. That's going to change the concentration of your wastewater. So you're going to have to treat that differently than you would just treat a school. It's going to be mostly bathrooms. So it's very specific to the site that the engineer is designing for.
Meg, do you know if surrounding towns like East Hampton and Southampton, do they give grants for commercial properties?
I don't know. I have to look into it.
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
That's
I know
what
the
I've heard.
county and state do not.
Who, the what?
The county and state
do
don't.
not give grants for commercial
no.
properties.
When the lady from the county was here, I asked that question specifically, and she said no.
We knew that. Or we at least confirmed that.
Yeah.
Well,
$50,000, that $500,000 goes quick.
yeah,
But we have $3 million, so, and which is why I'm saying some sense of prioritizing the most densely
Yeah. we have to-
offending, if I don't mean to,
For lack of a better.
for lack of a better word,
You
offending,
know, that,
I mean,
or, you know,
the time to water from any of those places along Shore Road, you know, is very short. However, the volume of water that flows through there is huge. I mean, like through that channel.
right,
You know, so, you know, the impact on shellfish spawning and stuff is probably much less than, you know, the Island Boatyard.
right.
That discharges in and around Banana Creek.
I mean, the bullseye is this building here and the other buildings around it. And they, you know, there is the conversation there to do.
Well, I mean, it's
Oasis.
been, you know, like the long range plan needs to get, is really what I've heard that precludes us from moving ahead, right? I mean,
The facilities
Facilities
master
master
plan.
Yeah, at least for this building, you can move on Justice Court and PD, because those are unlikely to get changed substantially within the facilities master plan.
Well,
Building, that building, assessors.
we probably don't know exactly, you know, what we don't have a quote on that. Is it 100, 150,000 or for these
I don't
buildings?
know, have you priced out things
Joe
like
was
that?
working on that.
We'll get more information, but certainly leading by example is great, if we, when that happens. But, a place like the Ram's Head would be an important place, because it's like discharging into Cockles Harbor.
Right.
Cockles Harbor Marina,
Cockles Harbor Marina, yeah.
which is the town laundromat,
Yeah, that's true.
essentially. I mean,
They have a pump out for the boats, but I don't think they pump out for the laundry. You're right.
well, they pump out for the boats that come there, but it goes into their septic system.
I don't know that.
Yeah, it does. They have
Does
this
it?
big, huge holding tank inside the garage there. So they collect it.
They collect it, but do they discharge it there?
I think so.
So then maybe the Allen Boat Yard does too.
Yeah.
So that is,
How do you even factor that in?
it's sort of weird that you're taking the stuff to the boats. You don't want the boats to dump in the water. And you're putting it in there and
It's going
then
out
putting
water.
it there and it's just going back. I don't know.
Well, the theory is that there's a certain amount of.
There's a certain amount of filtering, but not much,
Right.
because there's no treatment.
Right. But it's old school and new school. The concept, like.
So those are the kind of places where you might prioritize, even though Sunset Beach is like crazy volume, maybe it's not so impacting as one of those other places, which is like.
Margaritas are probably tough to treat.
So is there anything else we want to say about this for now?
If some idea of what the price would be for this, for us, I think we'd come back here and talk about it then and find out. We'll have some knowledge.
I wonder if PEP has some resources that could help us define some of this stuff, because.
Maybe I'll reach out.
Maybe they know about some other commercial properties where they already did it, and
All right, I'll reach out to our friend Rachel, our new friend.
she was very peppy. I liked it.
But very new.
No pun intended.
And I'll reach out for whatever quantification that she's going to include in her next presentation. Because that's a good question. All right, so I'll do some more work on that.
Well, I was going to say that if you made a list of like the top 6 businesses, all different sizes and different functions, and then, using that, how many bedrooms or how many, like if it's an inn or whether it's Cockles Harbor Marina, and then send it to somebody and say, what would they probably put in and how much would it cost?
All right, I can certainly do the Ram's Head,
Yeah. Well, yeah.
no problem.
We can pick some other
On the back of an
ones,
envelope.
too.
Well, that's actually true, because there are a couple of other inns as well. It's theoretically, they're a concentration, but they're also very seasonal.
Very seasonal, yeah.
Yeah, I think I think you
But
would
is there
stay
any
away from
difference?
looking at the on
Well,
the,
that's the thing, if
Is there a difference
if it's a
between
concentrated
them-
use in the summer, it doesn't matter that
Between a house, like you said, the person we looked at tonight, it's a 6-bedroom house, but only 2 people live there, but, is there a difference with, what's the one at the corner by the Rock Beverage there?
Oh, the
Whatever.
annex of
Yeah.
the Salt Brown House.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's a house, and 6 or 8 people sleep there for 4 months a year.
Once a year, maybe.
And
Right,
so,
if you
is
spread
there a
that out
difference
over
of
the
why
year.
we wouldn't approve them as a house? Yes, it's a commercial business, but it's the same.
Well, that's, that wrinkle of being a commercial thing is.
I got it, but mine is,
Well, wait.
and Goat Hill,
Well, Goat Hill, does it discharge into the height system? It might.
yeah, there's regular septics there now. Standard conventional.
on the site.
So it doesn't discharge into
Heights.
the heights.
My understanding, no. I remember when they put,
We don't pay a bill to them.
I'll go to Hill then, let's put that on the list.
But it's only used for 4 months, so I think you probably want to focus, if you want to get a bang for the buck, it's got to be heavy.
But the intensity of use for the time
That's what he's saying.
is pretty, that's the deal. I mean, how do you quantify that from between a house that's
I think
used?
there's heavy use in those 5 months.
You have some replumbing that you have to do to separate the kitchen. from
Many
the-
people have grease traps already, and so it's separated. The Ram's Head does, or did.
You mean the kitchen goes into?
The kitchen goes into a grease trap, and then the grease trap goes into the
Main septic system.
yeah, after the grease is leached out of it,
But but you don't.
theoretically.
Theoretically, but the other issue is dishwashing water something that needs to be treated as opposed to poop?
Greasy dish.
It all has to be true.
I mean, I think, there is bacteria and whatever in all water. I mean, yeah, the levels are different, obviously, for coming out of.
Concerns about bleach too.
Yeah, chemicals.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's like wash, it's like laundry.
Bacteria effectiveness.
Yeah,
Actually, Meg has her hand up, but.
Meg, yes, tell us what we're,
The county does allow you to separate kitchen waste and put it into a traditional septic system, separate kitchen waste from bathroom waste. Because kitchen waste has a lot of grease and fats that will clog up the IA systems and cause problems, even with grease traps, because typically grease traps have trouble cooling down when a restaurant's really cooking. So you get a lot of grease overflowing into the sanitary system.
Right.
So the health department does allow for a separation of kitchen waste from bathroom waste. So there's that to consider.
so that would tend to make the, need
Slightly
less.
Well, but you can count on 22 rooms times X amount of per day, times X amount of occupancy. There's your number.
Right.
There's probably 3 ways to do that number. Restaurants, there was 1 category. 2 is sleeping arrangements, and then all other, the bicycle shop.
Well,
Probably not a big waste
priority.
generator,
That's what I'm
but.
saying,
yeah.
you have to have a sense of priority. I mean, obviously Bridge Street is a
Street as an
priority.
entity itself, the whole thing,
The whole thing.
I mean, bike shop and all.
Maybe you put the system on.
Well, the one ship sailed, so now the eggs are probably in the Heights basket.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know of another
Which is why I keep
spot.
saying we need to think about the Heights.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. I mean, like,
But
deputize you to talk to Stella.
a lot of there isn't a concentration of sleeping there. You do have employees who pee
Where?
in Bridge Street. It's not a lot of, I don't think, well, there's some, but
Yeah, well, whatever is going on there, it is pretty much, going in to the.
it's all going in.
Going in.
We know where it's going.
Um,
Don't need those clams from Joni Harbor.
In any case,
Can we move on to 8?
we can move on to 8. Great job. Motion to adjourn. No.
Just kidding. 8.
Yeah, I agree. The Green Expo, thank you all for participating and helping, and, I think.
Sorry I
what-
couldn't help with WQI, but I
Well,
was
what,
doing
it's
to do
fine.
so.
It was, the tick costume thing had to be worn by somebody.
No, we did a deer, we had a deer there this time.
Whatever. It was, I think, a great event because there was a lot more traffic, it seemed to me, thanks, I think, to the fire department and their
Yeah, yeah.
and their Canton Country Fair. I didn't,
I can say that we did, for CPF, we probably got a good volunteer. This young woman, Liz, who worked at Mashomic as a field tech person. I was speaking with her and then connected her with Tim Pertel, because she has some expertise in invasives. That's, which is a big issue for
I
CPF.
think it's a good networking thing, a lot of it's, sometimes a lot of it's preaching to the choir, but,
Well, that's
yeah,
true.
I mean, but I thought it was a good day, and, I think,
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
hopefully it answered people's, some questions, and maybe we'll see some return on that. Anyway, thank you. So I would ask Julia to make a motion to, unless there's any other business.
No? Okay, then I'll make the motion that we should close the meeting.
Second. Okay, I'm in favor. All right.